Hello and welcome to the dungeon. I'm your host Rob. In today's video we're going to be doing a good old-fashioned build video. Yes, that's right, we still do those every now and then. So I'm going to be playing at one of my local gaming stores fairly soon coming up. And it's like a charity event. They sold tickets, and I was in one like 6 months ago. They did the same thing and it was a lot of fun, so me and my friends decided we'd do the same thing. Basically they have like 6 tables with 6 DMs and they're all running the same adventure, and then you just, have your group, which in our case is actually going to be 6 people, so we're just going to be our own table. Going to be, antisocial and not make new friends. We're just going to hang out with our own group, but just with a different DM. It's actually kind of fun though. We had a good time last time, so we're going to do it again this time. All the characters are level 5, and we're allowed to use basically any of the printed 5th edition books. So no like UA stuff online, but it's not like Adventures League where you've got core books plus 1 type of thing, right? The rest of our party, because I was kind of last one to make a character, the rest of our party consists of 2 fighters, 1 monk, a cleric, and a sorcerer. So I was kind of thinking, like, what am I going to play? But I asked a couple of the guys, and they're like, I don't know, just do ranged damage. So, I like range damage, nothing wrong with that. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to make a ranger. And I figured, number 1, I'm going to be able to do some damage, obviously, so that's fine. But number 2, even though we have some healing, having something like Goodberry or an extra person with Cure Wounds is never a bad thing to have. We've got some nice spells like Pass Without Trace, because it occurred to me that, there is no rogue, there's no druid, there's no wizard with a familiar even, or warlock with a familiar, who could be doing a lot of the scouting. I mean, maybe the monk can scout, but it's unlikely that the 2 fighters in their plate mail are going to be sneaking around. The cleric's probably not going to be doing it. The sorcerer is probably not going to be doing it. So I was like, you know what? I can make somebody who does a lot of damage and then can also fill some of these little gaps in the party. So I also figured I'd take Fog Cloud. We'll get to that when we talk about spells, just because I doubt the sorcerer will have any battlefield control. Knowing this guy is going to be all blasting all the time, which is fine, right? Nothing wrong with that. But again, just, opportunities to fill some of the gaps while still fulfilling my main role of just ranged damage dealer. So, like I said, I decided to go Ranger. I think there's a lot of strong options, but you know me, we're going Gloom Stalker. I think Gloom Stalker loses some of its effectiveness as you get to higher levels, but it's a very front-loaded subclass, and we're only level 5, so, that's like the golden era of Gloom Stalkerness. Level 5, that's like peak Gloom Stalker right there. Also, we get things like Rope Trick, not Trip. Jeez, that would be an interesting spell. Rope Trick. And I thought, with 2 fighters and a monk, we might want some short rests that we can safely rely on, right? I don't think I'm going to take it as one of my prepared spells, but I'll talk to the party, see what we think, and I don't know what the scenario is going to be like. I'm just going in blind, right? We all are. So, it's good to be prepared for lots of eventualities. Either way, it gets added to the Gloomstalker list, and I think that it's, hopefully nothing I'm going to need, but if I do, it's there. So I think that makes a pretty good sense. My character, my backstory, I'm going to actually be a noble, but I was taken prisoner by drow elves at one point and was forced to work for them for 5 years, and then I escaped and decided to use my money and resources to fight the Underdark. Basically, I'm Green Arrow, but instead of being on an island, I was a prisoner of the drow in the Underdark. So think that. As far as race choices and feat choices and stuff like that, I really felt like there were 2 good directions that we could go in. The first, of course, was to go crossbow expert, well, variant human probably, crossbow expert, and sharpshooter, being our 2 feats, 1 at character creation, 1 at level 4. Problem is, I've already done crossbow expert quite a bit, and don't get me wrong, I love crossbow expert, but I wanted to try Piercer, because I've never actually used the feat. In fact, nobody at my table has used Crusher or Piercer. And it's not a situation where they're just unaware of the Tasha's feats or anything. People are all over, Shadow Touch and Fey Touch and all those kind of things, Meta Magic Adept, don't worry, they're aware of this stuff. But for some reason, when it comes to the martial feats, people just seem to stick with the customary, polearm mastery, great weapon mastery, crossbow expert, sharpshooter, sentinel sneaks into a lot of builds, but not really crusher or piercer. And I thought, let's try that. So, like I said, I'm just going to call them piercer and crossbow experts so we can differentiate between the two different build ideas. I think for the crossbow expert, which we're not going to play, even though I think it's slightly superior, for that version, I would definitely be going variant human. All the characters are point buy as well, so you're not rolling for dice or anything like that. But with point buy and variant human, with our +1 to 2 different stats, we can easily get 16 dex and I'm going to say 16 wisdom. I mean, you could go con or whatever else you want, but wisdom's a solid choice since we need decent wisdom for our spells. As a Gloom stalker, you also get your wisdom bonus added to your initiative. So, getting the +3 and +3 gives you a +6 to your initiative without anything else. That's a pretty good start already, So I think that variant human is really good in that situation. But we are going to be going with custom lineage in our case. And the main reason is because, so the variant human, you get a +1 to 2 different stats, as we probably all remember. With custom lineage, you get +2 to 1 stat only. So taking a 15 in dex, moving that to a 17, is really no better than a 16. But if I take one of these half feats, like say piercer, then we get the 1 point of strength or dex. Obviously we're taking dex, and then we get the rest of the feat on top of that. So we can actually start with that 18 dexterity right off the bat. And that is pretty nice, right? I mean, granted, we could go sharpshooter then piercer. It doesn't really matter in this example because we're starting at level 5 anyways. But, if I were to play this character from level 1, I would be starting with piercer on the one hand or crossbow expert on the other. And then we take sharpshooter at 4 regardless, right? I think piercer is probably not quite as good, mostly because, especially combined with sharpshooter, that bonus action attack is really, really nice. And it didn't used to be, I feel like it was better before, but then they added things like, favorite foe, that's what I'm thinking of. I was thinking of favorite enemy for a second there. Favorite foe, where you can do the D4 damage, I mean, it scales, but in my case, it's going to be a D4, a number of times per day, or a number of targets per day, equal to your proficiency bonus. So in my case, 3 times a day, I can designate a target. That target takes D4 damage from all the attacks I make on it, right? Kind of similar to Hunter's Mark, but there's no action cost to it. Hunter's Mark, you got to use a bonus action to cast a spell, and that's interfering with your bonus action attack, which was kind of, it's not a big deal when you're using crossbow expert, but it's a little bit of a deal, right? It's a small thing. But then with favorite foe, you can just designate him. It doesn't take anything, and suddenly you're doing that D4 damage. It also requires concentration, so it doesn't stack with Hunter's Mark. There's really no downsides, except that maybe you run out of uses and then you wish you had Hunter's Mark as well, right? But I feel like that kind of pushes the crossbow expert version even higher. But to be fair, the other version is pretty good too. We're still going to have the +6 to initiative because we're going to have 18 dex, we're going to have +4, and then we're going to have 14 wisdom for a +2. Our casting isn't going to be quite as good, but it does mean that things like our dex saves are going to be better. All of our dex-related skill checks are going to be slightly better. Our 2 hidden damage are going to be 1 point better, So there are a bunch of little bonuses. If we get a crit, we get to add an extra die of damage on top of that. That's kind of nice. Obviously, we get to re-roll one of our piercing damage die per turn. That's, I've never used it, but after looking at Great Weapon Mastery, the Great Weapon Fighting Style, where you can re-roll, if you get a 1 or a 2. It's usually not a big difference, but, it's not 0, right? And overall, I think that the two are very, very close. And like I said, I've never used piercer yet, so let's give it a shot. Also, it means we're using a longbow, which gives a way better range than, say, the hand crossbow. The range doesn't matter as much once we have sharpshooter because we can ignore the long range penalties, right? But it's still nice. And even though I have no expectations of finding magical items necessarily, and this is a one-shot, it's not like an ongoing campaign, right? But, usually in pre-written stuff, the chances of finding a magical short bow or long bow, because I could use either one as long as it's magical, I don't really care, is much, much higher than the chances of finding a magical hand crossbow. Same with magical arrows compared to hand crossbow bolts, right? There are not a lot of those in pre-printed adventures usually. So, I think that overall it's a pretty close choice. The main thing is custom lineage allows me to start with that 17 and then the half feet pushing me to an 18 versus the crossbow expert, which is going to give me the bonus action attack, which is also really nice. But like I said, we've done that before. Let's try Piercer out. So anyways, I'm going to be, like I said, I'm going to be going with the noble background. That's going to give us history and persuasion. I'm probably going to take 12 charisma. Oh crap, I had my stats written down. Oh, there they are. Yeah, here we go. So my starting stats are going to be my 15 dex. That's going to get bumped to a 17 and a Piercer an 18. We're going to have 14 con, 14 wisdom, 12 charisma, and then only 8 strength and 8 int. We're going to be wearing probably studded leather because, we're pretty weak. But that's fine. We've got good dexterity bonus. It'll be okay. So yeah, we're going to have history and persuasion skills from our background. We're going to take perception as one of our class skills, along with stealth, insight. Then we're going to have acrobatics as our racial choice, because with custom lineage, we have a choice of dark vision or a skill. And usually I would favor the dark vision. I think that's usually just more beneficial. But in this case, we're getting dark vision from Gloom Stalker, so we don't really need dark vision. So, that's going to be the way we go there. We also will have our canny ability, which is basically just expertise. I really wish they would have just called it expertise, but whatever. I'm probably going to take that in stealth, although I think there's an argument to be made with perception as well. But we probably have people with good perception. Like I said, we don't really have a lot of stealthy people, so I'm thinking stealth is going to be where I put that. So, all in all, that kind of gives us the basics there. So as far as the Tasha's Rangers options versus the Player's Handbook, obviously we're going with the Tasha's ones. They're just superior pretty much across the board. So we're going to have Deft Explorer at level 1, which is going to give us our canny expertise type thing. And we're getting +2 languages. I haven't bothered picking languages yet. Obviously, one of them is going to have to be like Undercommon, and one will probably be Drow, just because of background choices, for roleplay reasons. And then I'll probably just pick, a bunch of other things I think might be handy, like Draconic or Goblin, Orc, whatever, right? And then, of course, we'll obviously have Common. So, languages I'm not too worried about. We'll figure it out. And with 6 people at the table, I'm sure there'll be a huge range of languages that are already covered, so whatever. I already mentioned favorite foe, but of course we're getting that at level 1 as well. Oh, for anybody else who's curious, if I were to play this character past level 5, I'd be probably looking to multi-class into something else. Fighter for Action Surge is always a great choice. Rogue, especially like Assassin Rogue, so you can try to get that advantage in all those opening attacks. Great way to offset the -5 hit penalty from Sharpshooter. We're obviously taking the archery fighting style. That probably goes without saying, but we'll mention it anyways. We're going to have our Dread Ambusher, and we're going to have Umbral Sight from Gloomstalker, of course. Our Gloomstalker spells, we get the options of Disguise Self and Rope Trick. I already mentioned Rope Trick. I don't know that I'll be preparing either one of these, but they're both decent spells, and having the option of preparing them is very, very nice. As far as the spells, I'm actually probably going to go with, I'm still thinking of taking Hunter's Mark. I don't know that I need it with Favorite Foe, but you never know. There could be a lot of combat in this. I'm not sure. So I think we're going to prepare Hunter's Mark. We're going to have Cure Wounds or Goodberry. I probably don't need both, and I'm leaning towards Goodberry. I'm going to take Fog Cloud just so we can have a bit of battlefield control. And then that still leaves me with, if we go with the Hunter's Mark, the Goodberry, and the Fog Cloud, that gives me one more option. We can start looking at whatever else we might need. If it's going to be more of like a city campaign, we've got Disguise Self, might be handy. If we're going to be, in dungeons, and, probably not so much. if the cleric turns out to not heal anybody, because maybe he's a war cleric, and why would he heal people when he could be, casting spells and smacking people with a warhammer, then maybe we'll take Cure Wounds too. Who knows? But it's good to have some options. Our level 2 spells, we're definitely taking Pass Without Trace because it's just awesome. I'm leaning towards Magic Weapon because the last time I did something like this, we ended up fighting the boss, and it turned out he was resistant to non-magical weapon attacks. And, that just kind of sucks when you're only doing weapon attacks, pretty much. But we do have some other options, too. I already mentioned... Oh, I guess Entangle was an option at level 1 as well. That's not a bad pick. Although with only 14 Wisdom, I won't have the best spell save DC. But it's not terrible, It's still pretty good. Summon Beast is a very nice option as well, I think. There's some good choices here we can go for. Overall, though, fighting stuff which can't be hurt by normal weapons when you only have normal weapons really sucks. So I think I'm probably going to take Magic Weapon. If this was an ongoing campaign, though, that's one we're obviously going to just get rid of the moment we get a Magic Weapon, right? Don't need that long term. But for a one-shot like this, I don't know what's coming. Not a bad pick, I think. Anyways, that is the basic idea of the build. Basically, we're just going to try to shoot things with lots of arrows, and situationally, we will use our spells to assist the party, hopefully proactively. That's one reason I like Pass Without Trace, is, then we can use something like that, and I can still be shooting stuff with arrows, not interfering with it. Whereas if I have to cast Fog Cloud, that's a round where I'm not shooting stuff with arrows. So, you've got to understand that there's an opportunity cost there. But overall, still a great spell, and I don't think the Sorcerer is going to take it. I'd also considered maybe making another Arcane character just so we could have like another counter spell in the party. That's not a bad option either. But at the end of the day, I've played a lot of casters too. I mean, I've played a lot of everything at this point. Who am I kidding? I've played Rangers before too. But, I figured this would be a fun character to play. Try a feat I haven't tried before. Do things slightly different than I've done before. And, also hopefully be able to fill some of the cracks in the current party, I was going to say alignment, but I'm not talking about D&D alignment. I'm talking about just, the overall synergy between the characters. But anyways, that is everything. Feel free to like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and most importantly, leave me your comments in the comment section. I'd love to hear what kind of characters you would build for a 5th level like one-shot like this, especially in a fairly large party. Like 6 people is quite a few in 5th edition D&D. Like back in, I remember back in like 1st edition and 2nd edition, adventures would be written for like 6 to 10 players. But, that's not really the norm these days, right? So, or even 12. Like I remember there'd be adventures would be like, you should have at least 3 or 4 fighters and probably 2 clerics. It was like, out of 12 characters in your party, But, that doesn't really happen these days. But anyways, like I said, I would love to hear other people's ideas, suggestions. Have you tried Piercer versus Crossbow Expert? Who knows? I would probably do a part 2 to this video as well, and just do a follow-up after I've actually played the character and just kind of report on how well it did and, what the adventure was like. And it can be more of an informal thing. We'll just kind of talk about how did he do and whether or not things went well. Maybe we just get TPK'd right off the bat. Who knows? Anything could happen. Anyways, though, that's everything. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.